What if your entire spiritual journey has been trapped inside an invisible prison? Picture a force so subtle, so ingrained in the fabric of reality, that you've been living under its influence without even realizing it. This isn't about physical walls or chains. It's about something far more pervasive: Saturn's Black Cube, an ancient esoteric symbol whispered about in secret traditions, representing control, limitation, and the endless karmic cycles that keep souls bound to the same patterns, life after life. But here's the truth no one wants you to hear. Breaking free from this cosmic construct isn't just an act of rebellion, it's the ultimate spiritual awakening. Think of it as the greatest jailbreak in existence, not from a cell of stone and steel, but from the illusions that shape your perception, your choices, even your destiny. The Black Cube isn't just a metaphor, it's a living, energetic structure, a grid of suppression designed to keep humanity locked in fear, scarcity, and repetition. And the most shocking part, most of us willingly uphold it, unaware that we're perpetuating our own confinement. But what if you could crack the code? What if you could step outside this invisible framework and reclaim the boundless freedom that's always been yours? This isn't just about esoteric theories or abstract philosophy. It's about liberation on the deepest level. Imagine waking up one day and realizing every struggle, every repeating lesson, every feeling of being stuck was part of a grand illusion, one you have the power to shatter. The journey to dismantle Saturn's Black Cube is the most radical act of self-sovereignty you can undertake. It's not for the faint of heart, but for those brave enough to question, to seek, and to defy the unseen forces that have governed humanity for millennia. If you've ever felt there's more to your existence than what you've been told, this is your invitation to step into the truth. And the first key to unlocking the door is understanding the prison itself. To truly grasp the power of Saturn's Black Cube, we have to trace its roots through history's hidden corridors. This symbol isn't just a random shape, it's a recurring motif woven into the fabric of ancient wisdom traditions, often shrouded in mystery. In Kabbalah, the cube represents the material world, a geometric prison of limitations and illusions, where the soul navigates the dense energy of physical existence. The Gnostics saw it as the domain of the demiurge, the false creator who traps divine sparks in a cycle of suffering and forgetfulness. Even Freemasonry, with its intricate rituals, reveres the cube as a symbol of perfected form, yet beneath the surface, it hints at humanity's bondage to structure, hierarchy, and control. But why Saturn? In esoteric lore, Saturn is the taskmaster, the lord of time and karma. Its energy governs the boundaries of reality, death, decay, and the relentless ticking of the clock. The Black Cube mirrors this energy. It's the archetype of confinement, the invisible walls that keep us chasing deadlines, debts, and societal expectations. Think of it as the ultimate illusion, the belief that this limited, linear existence is all there is. And here's where it gets chilling. This symbolism isn't locked away in ancient texts. It's alive today, hidden in plain sight. Look at corporate logos, government architecture, even religious iconography. The cube appears again and again, sometimes as stark geometry, other times subtly embedded in designs. These aren't coincidences. They're echoes of an ancient program, reinforcing the same energy of restriction. Modern cities, with their grid-like streets and towering black monoliths, mirror the same archetype. It's as if the blueprint of control never left us, it just evolved. But understanding this pattern is the first step to breaking it. When you see the cube, you're seeing the fingerprint of a system designed to keep humanity locked in a loop, one that equates survival with submission. The deeper truth, this symbol thrives on our unconscious participation. Every time we bow to artificial deadlines, obsess over material accumulation, or accept limitations as unchangeable, we reinforce the cube's power. But the moment you recognize it, the moment you question the very framework it represents, you begin to chip away at its walls. This isn't about conspiracy. It's about consciousness. The Black Cube is the shadow cast by a forgotten truth that we are far more powerful than the structures that claim to define us, and the key to dismantling it starts with seeing it for what it really is. So why does the Black Cube exist at all? To answer that, we have to confront an uncomfortable truth. Limitation is the foundation of control. This isn't some cosmic accident. It's a deliberate design. Across secret doctrines and suppressed texts, one thread emerges. The cube acts as a soul trap, a mechanism to keep consciousness small, afraid, and endlessly repeating the same lessons. The Gnostics called it the archonic matrix, a false reality where divine sparks, human souls, are tricked into believing they're separate from their true power. And Saturn, it's the enforcer, the cosmic warden ensuring the system runs on schedule. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. The 9-to-5 grind isn't just a job structure. It's a ritual of confinement, a way to condition people into accepting life as a series of repetitive cycles. That operates the same way, an invisible chain that keeps individuals too exhausted to question, too trapped to dream beyond survival. Even time itself becomes a prison when we're taught to see it as linear: birth, work, death, instead of the fluid, expansive force it truly is. These aren't natural systems. They're reflections of the cube's architecture, carefully crafted to reinforce forgetfulness. Channeled texts, like the Nag Hammadi scriptures, describe this in eerie detail. They speak of counterfeit spirits who manipulate humanity through artificial constructs, feeding off fear like a harvest. Saturn's role here is key. Its energy doesn't just represent discipline. It's the vibration of restriction, the belief that suffering is inevitable and transcendence is reserved for the few. That's the cube's ultimate deception, convincing souls that the walls around them are unbreakable. But here's what they don't want you to realize. This system depends on your participation. Every time you accept lack as reality, every time you measure your worth by productivity or submit to arbitrary authority, you're reinforcing the cube's walls. Yet the moment you question, the moment you refuse to bow to its illusions, you weaken its hold. This isn't about overthrowing governments or burning money. It's about reclaiming the one thing the cube can't tolerate: your awareness. Because the deepest secret of all, the prison was never locked. You just forgot you had the key. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you push, you're running in place? That's the first whisper of the Black Cube's grip: chronic exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. Not the kind that comes from hard work, but the soul-deep weariness of a hamster spinning its wheel, chasing rewards that never satisfy. Then there's the eerie familiarity of your struggles, the same relationship patterns, financial hurdles, or creative blocks replaying like a broken record. These aren't coincidences. They're the signature of a system designed to keep you looping. The most haunting symptom, that hollow ache beneath the surface, the nagging sense that there's more to life, if only you could reach it. Existential dread isn't just philosophical pondering. It's the cube's shadow, the subconscious realization that you're trapped in a story written for you, not by you. You might dismiss it as stress or modern life, but what if it's your soul trying to alert you? That persistent feeling of being stuck, like wading through invisible sludge, isn't a personal failure. It's the friction of your spirit brushing against invisible walls. Now, contrast this with the liberated state, those rare moments when life feels effortless. Synchronicities pile up like divine breadcrumbs. Time bends. Hours flow like liquid gold when you're immersed in creativity or purpose. This isn't luck. It's your natural frequency when the cube's distortions fade. Boundless creativity, magnetic intuition, that childlike wonder you thought you'd lost. These aren't gifts for the chosen few. They're your birthright, waiting just beyond the illusion of limitation. So if this resonates, here's the truth: you're not broken, and you're certainly not alone. The very fact that you feel the dissonance means part of you remembers freedom. That discomfort, it's the first crack in the cube's walls. Now the real question isn't whether you're trapped, it's whether you'll take the next step to shatter the glass. True rebellion isn't about smashing windows or lighting fires. It's about dismantling the invisible scripts running your life. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing every rule, every should, every ounce of guilt or fear you've carried wasn't yours to begin with. That's the first crack in the Black Cube's foundation. This isn't anarchy, it's awakening. The most radical act isn't destruction, it's seeing through the illusion. And that begins with 3 unshakable pillars: self-sovereignty, the collapse of artificial time, and the refusal to bow to fear. Self-sovereignty means reclaiming your inner compass, the quiet voice buried under layers of conditioning. It's the decision to stop outsourcing your worth to institutions, religions, or social media algorithms. Think of Terence McKenna's razor-sharp warning: culture is not your friend. He wasn't advocating isolation. He was exposing the trap of consensus reality. When you measure your value by likes, titles, or bank balances, you're handing your power to the cube's machinery. But when you anchor in self, not the reflection others demand, you starve the system of its fuel. Then there's time, not the ticking clock, but the fluid, expanding now that ancient mystics and quantum physicists alike describe. The cube thrives on linearity, the lie that life is a straight path from cradle to grave. But what if deadlines are spells? What if retirement plans are just another cage? Indigenous cultures and esoteric traditions have long understood time as cyclical, even holographic. When you step out of hustle culture and into rhythm, when you trust seasons over schedules, you dismantle Saturn's greatest weapon: urgency. Finally, fear, not the healthy kind that keeps you from cliffs, but the manufactured dread that keeps you small. Debt, panic, health scares, the gnawing sense you're always behind. These aren't accidents. They're the cube's soundtrack. Rejecting fear-based dogma doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let their narratives define your limits. The mystic Gurdjieff called this the terror of the situation, not because life is terrifying, but because we've been trained to see it that way. Here's the paradox: the cube wants you to rebel blindly. Rage against governments, curse the elites, and you're still playing inside the game. Real rebellion is quieter. It's the moment you stop asking for permission from gods, gurus, or algorithms and realize the prison door was never locked. It's the decision to live as if you're already free, because the truth is, you always were. The cube just made you forget. The Black Cube feeds on what you refuse to face: the buried shame, the unspoken rage, the parts of yourself you've locked away in darkness. This isn't metaphorical. The cube's power thrives on fragmented souls, using your own suppressed shadows as bricks in its walls. But here's the alchemical secret: the very wounds it exploits become the tools to tear it down. Shadow work isn't just self-help, it's spiritual warfare. Every repressed emotion, every disowned trait, is energy siphoned by the cube to keep you trapped in cycles of reaction and limitation. Reclaim those fragments, and you reclaim your power. Carl Jung warned that what we resist not only persists, but rules us from the unconscious. Think of the cube as the physical manifestation of that unexamined pain. When you avoid confronting your jealousy, it metastasizes into self-sabotage. Unprocessed grief hardens into emotional armor, cutting you off from intuition. Even that voice whispering, "You're not ready," isn't wisdom. It's the cube's echo, weaponizing your fear to keep you compliant. But shadow work flips the script. By dragging these fragments into light, you drain their corrosive power and starve the cube of its fuel. Try this. Take a blank page and map your darkest fear, not the surface-level worries, but the primal dread that makes your hands shake to write it down? Is it abandonment, worthlessness, the terror of being truly seen? The cube magnifies these fears into invisible laws, convincing you they're reality. Now light a match, watch the paper curl into ash. This isn't just symbolism. Fire transmutes energy on an atomic level. As the smoke rises, visualize the cube's grip loosening, its bricks crumbling where your fear once cemented them. The ritual works because it forces the subconscious to witness its own liberation. The cube relies on your avoidance, on the belief that some truths are too dangerous to touch. But when you stare into the abyss, when you name the unnameable, you realize the monster was never in the dark. It was the dark itself, and light, by its very nature, dissolves shadows. Every integrated fragment is a rebellion. Every reclaimed emotion is a strike against the illusion that you were ever meant to be small. Saturn's grip tightens when we bow to the tyranny of the clock, when we measure our worth in productivity, panic over deadlines, or shrink our dreams to fit neatly into calendar slots. But time isn't the linear cage we've been taught. Ancient mystics and modern physicists agree. It's fluid, malleable, even negotiable. To escape Chronos' prison, we must become alchemists of time, bending its illusion to our will. Start with meditation, not the kind that seeks calm, but the kind that dissolves the clock. Sit in silence and visualize your awareness expanding beyond minutes and hours until you touch the timeless space where past, present, and future swirl like ink in water. This isn't escapism, it's recalibration. When you anchor in that expansive now, Saturn's ticking loses its power to dictate your rhythm. Next, sync with the moon. While Saturn demands rigid schedules, lunar cycles reveal time's true nature, a dance of ebbs and flows. Track the moon's phases for just 1 month, and you'll notice patterns. Energy surges at the new moon, clarity at the full, release during the waning phase. This isn't astrology. It's evidence that time moves in spirals, not straight lines. Plan creative bursts during waxing moons, rest during the dark. Watch how deadlines feel less like threats and more like tides, natural, inevitable, but never personal. Then there's the quantum leap, the sudden shift that defies logic. It happens when you stop waiting for change and start embodying it. Picture this. You're stuck in a job that drains you, counting the days until Friday. But what if, instead of resigning, you become the version of yourself who's already free? Dress differently, speak differently, let your energy occupy that reality now. Time isn't a barrier, it's a mirror reflecting your inner state. Saturn says change takes years. Quantum reality says it happens in an instant, the moment you stop begging the universe and act as if the door's already open. Contrast this with Jupiter's gift, synchronicity. Where Saturn constructs walls, Jupiter tears them down with meaningful coincidences. The stranger who mentions your dream city, the book that falls off the shelf with the exact answer you needed. These aren't accidents. They're proof that linear time is a myth. To invite more, practice the mantra, I exist beyond the clock. Whisper it when anxiety tightens your chest, when the future feels heavy. Repeat it until your cells believe it, because the truth is, you weren't born to be a slave to seconds. You're a timeless being wearing a temporary suit, and every moment is a chance to remember and revolt. Those attachments you can't quite shake, the lingering doubts, the compulsive scroll through social media, even the gnawing need to please others, aren't just habits. They're lifelines feeding the black cube, thin black cords siphoning your energy into its labyrinth of control. Picture them for a moment, shadowy tendrils hooked into your aura, pulsing with every moment you dim your light to fit in, every second you trade presence for distraction. But these cords aren't unbreakable. They're illusions, and like all illusions, they dissolve the moment you see them clearly. Here's how to sever them. First, locate the hooks, close your eyes, and scan your body for tension. That knot in your stomach when you force a smile, the ache behind your eyes after hours online. These are the entry points. Now imagine golden scissors, not as tools, but as extensions of your will. Visualize snipping each cord with a single decisive cut. As they fall away, feel the vacuum where they once leached your power. Then watch as golden light floods the space, sealing the wounds with sovereignty. This isn't fantasy, it's energetic hygiene, as practical as washing your hands of germs. The cube thrives on passive participation, so starve it. Start with the biggest leak, people-pleasing. Every time you abandon your truth to keep the peace, you're handing the cube a key to your psyche. Try this. Next time you're tempted to shrink, pause. Press a finger to your sternum and whisper, "I choose me." That simple act reroutes the energy back to your core. Social media addiction, another pipeline. The endless scroll mirrors the cube's maze, an algorithm-designed loop to keep you hungry, never satisfied. Break the trance with a ritual. Before opening an app, trace the sigil of Metatron, a nested geometric star, on your screen with your finger. This sacred geometry disrupts parasitic energy patterns, turning your device from a drain into a neutral tool. Finally, fortify your space. Orgonite, a blend of resin, metal, and quartz, acts like an energetic air purifier, breaking up stagnant frequencies. Place a pyramid near your workspace, or wear a pendant to create a buffer against psychic hooks, or etch your own sigil, perhaps an 8-pointed star within a circle, into a candle. Light it weekly with the intention, "Only what serves my sovereignty may enter." The ritual isn't about fighting the cube, that just feeds its drama. It's about becoming so rooted in your own frequency that the cords find nothing left to grasp. Because the ultimate rebellion isn't defiance, it's indifference. When you stop feeding the illusion, it starves. And one day, you'll look back and realize the prison was empty all along. Behind every prison are the jailers, the invisible architects who maintain its walls. In Saturn's shadow realm, these wardens are known as archons, non-physical entities that thrive on the energy of limitation. Some traditions name them Yaldabaoth, the blind god who mistakes itself for the ultimate creator. Others point to AI overlords, not the machines we fear, but ancient, hyperdimensional algorithms that feed on human suffering like a harvest. Their fingerprints are subtle but unmistakable. Ever noticed how your phone glitches when you're on the verge of a breakthrough, or how a wave of inexplicable dread can derail an entire day? These aren't coincidences, they're interference patterns, the Archon's way of reinforcing the cube's illusion that you're powerless. To recognize their influence, track the disruptions. A sudden argument with a loved one over nothing, technology failing at critical moments, emails vanishing, devices freezing mid-insight, even that voice in your head whispering, "Why bother?" Just as you're about to take a leap, the Archons don't need to possess you. They simply amplify what's already weak, your doubts, your fatigue, your fear of standing out. Their greatest trick is making you blame yourself for the sabotage, keeping you trapped in cycles of self-recrimination. But here's the secret: their power depends on your unawareness. The moment you spot their tactics, their hold weakens. Now, the counterstrike, etheric shielding, isn't about brute force, it's about frequency. Visualize the violet flame, a spiritual tool revered by mystics from Saint Germain to the Essenes. Unlike ordinary fire, this plasma doesn't burn, it transmutes. Envision it wrapping around you like liquid amethyst, incinerating parasitic attachments without resistance. Or try sound, a simple tuning fork at 432 Hz, the frequency of DNA repair, can shatter intrusive energy like glass. Even your voice works. Chanting Aum vibrates at the same resonance as the universe's fabric, disrupting artificial constructs. For tech-based attacks, black tourmaline isn't just a stone, it's a spiritual Faraday cage. Place it near devices or wear it as armor against digital drains. And if doubt creeps in, remember, the Archons want you to think shielding is superstition. but physics confirms it. Everything is vibration. You're not fighting shadows. You're recalibrating energy, shifting from a frequency of captivity to one of sovereignty. The tools are simple. The choice is yours. Will you let the jailers keep their hooks in you, or will you resonate beyond their reach? The cube's walls are thin, and they're trembling. Sacred geometry holds the key to dismantling Saturn's Black Cube, not through force, but by replacing its rigid angles with the boundless flow of the sphere. Picture the cube, sharp edges, flat surfaces, a structure built on separation. Now imagine its opposite, a radiant sphere, perfect in its symmetry, containing no beginning or end. This isn't just a shape swap, it's a paradigm shift. The cube divides, the sphere unites. The cube traps energy in corners, while the sphere lets it circulate freely. Plato revered the sphere as the most divine of forms, calling it the perfect solid, because it mirrors the cosmos itself. And here's the alchemy. When you consciously replace the cube's geometry with the sphere's harmony, you rewrite the very code of your reality. Try this meditation. Close your eyes and envision a golden sphere expanding around your body, its surface shimmering like liquid sunlight. Feel it pushing against the invisible edges of the cube that surrounds you, not with aggression, but with gentle, irresistible pressure. As the sphere grows, notice how the cube's walls begin to fracture, its rigid lines dissolving into light. This isn't fantasy, it's applied sacred geometry. The sphere's frequency disrupts the cube's illusion of limitation because it embodies the truth you've forgotten. You are infinite, uncontainable, a microcosm of the universe's unbroken wholeness. Dive deeper with the Merkaba, a star tetrahedron formed by two interlocking pyramids, one pointing up to the heavens, the other down to the earth. Ancient Egyptian initiates used this light body vehicle to transcend dimensional boundaries. When activated through breath and intention, the Merkaba spins at high velocity, morphing from a tetrahedron into a sphere of pulsating light. This is the ultimate geometric revolt, using the cube's own language, sacred geometry, to dismantle its control. The Merkaba doesn't break the cube's rules, it transcends them, proving that the highest rebellion is evolution. Now, contrast this with how the cube operates in daily life. Think of city grids, the rigid 90-degree angles of office buildings, even the pixelated screens that dominate modern existence. These are all subtle reinforcements of the cube's energy. But nature rebels against this. Look at the curve of a galaxy, the spiral of a nautilus shell, the perfect orb of a dewdrop. These are the sphere's fingerprints, reminders that reality's true nature is fluid, not fixed. By aligning with these organic patterns through meditation, art, or simply walking in nature, you sync with the universe's innate intelligence, sidelining the cube's artificial constraints. Practice this daily. Trace a circle in the air with your finger each morning, whispering, "I am the sphere, boundless, sovereign, free." Over time, this simple ritual rewires your subconscious, replacing the cube's angular programming with the sphere's limitless flow. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live in a box. The cosmos doesn't have corners, and neither do you. Sound has always been the silent architect of reality, an invisible force that can build walls or shatter them. And here's the revelation. Certain frequencies act like sonic crowbars, prying open the black cube seams. Take 528 Hz, the so-called love frequency. Scientists studying DNA repair have observed this tone's ability to restore corrupted genetic information, but esoteric traditions know it as something far more potent, a vibrational key that unlocks the soul's memory of freedom. When played consistently, it doesn't just calm the mind, it rewires the subconscious, dissolving the cube's embedded scripts of lack and limitation. Then there's Saturn's own resonance, the deep, ominous hum of its hexagon storm, a six-sided vortex spinning at its north pole. While mainstream lore paints this as just a planetary oddity, Occult traditions hear it differently. It's the cosmic tuning fork of karma, the pulse that keeps souls tethered to cyclic time. But knowledge is power. By working with reverse-engineered Saturn frequencies like binaural beats, mirroring its harmonic signature, but flipped into liberating intervals, you hijack the warden's tools to blow the prison doors. It's alchemy, using the energy of confinement to fuel your breakout. Now, combine these tones into a sound bath protocol, and you've got an acoustic rebellion. Start with grounding theta waves 4 Hz to drop you below the cube's radar into the subconscious where its programs run. Layer in 528 Hz to soften the walls. Then introduce the inverted Saturn frequencies like a sonic battering ram. But here's the critical part. Intention is the igniter. As the sounds wash over you, visualize the cube not as an indestructible monolith, but as brittle glass. With each exhale, whisper, "Resonance is my birthright." Feel the vibrations in your bones, the way ancient shamans used drumming to shatter evil spells. For maximum effect, pair this with physical movement. Stand barefoot on earth if possible, and let the frequencies travel up through your souls. Trace the sacred geometries we discussed earlier, spheres, Merkabas, in the air with your hands as the tones play. The cube thrives on stagnation. Movement disrupts its hold, and when the session ends, don't rush back to noise. Sit in the silence where new neural pathways are forming, where the cube's echo fades to a whisper. Because the ultimate truth is this: sound built your cage, and sound, your sound, will dismantle it. Saturn's return isn't a cosmic punishment. It's an initiation, a sacred rite of passage disguised as upheaval. Every 29.5 years, Saturn completes its orbit, returning to the exact position it held at your birth. Astrology often frames this as a period of harsh lessons, but the deeper truth: it's the universe offering you a choice. Continue clinging to outgrown versions of yourself, or step into the maturity you've been avoiding. The weight you feel during a Saturn return isn't oppression, it's gravity, pulling you toward your authentic path. This is where most spiritual teachings get it wrong. Saturn doesn't take from you. It reveals what was never truly yours to begin with: the shaky foundations, the people-pleasing masks, the dreams planted by others instead of your soul. To work with Saturn's energy is to practice alchemy in motion. Start with lead, Saturn's sacred metal. In medieval traditions, alchemists believed lead could be transformed into gold not as literal metallurgy, but as a metaphor for turning dense experience into wisdom. Carry a small lead talisman, even a fishing weight wrapped in black cloth, during challenging transits. Hold it while repeating, "What must solidify, shall. What must crumble, will." This isn't superstition, it's psychodrama. Lead's density mirrors Saturn's grounding force, helping you anchor amidst chaos. Timing is everything. Saturn rules Saturday, the day named in its honor. Use this window strategically. Light a black candle at the first hour of Saturn's day, sunrise Saturday, and inscribe onto it symbols of what you're ready to release: a job that drains you, a relationship kept by habit. As it burns, whisper, "I alchemize your lessons, I reject your chains." The flame doesn't just destroy, it transmutes. By engaging Saturn on its own terms, you flip the script from passive victim to conscious co-creator. But the real magic lies in your language. Saturn thrives on rigid narratives like, "I'll never be good enough," or "This always happens to me." These aren't just thoughts, they're spells, reinforcing the cube's architecture. Rewrite them. When fear whispers, "You're trapped," counter with, "I am in dialogue with time itself." If doubt mutters, "You're behind," declare, "I move at the pace of my becoming." Affirmations aren't wishful thinking, they're linguistic keys, cracking open the cube's programming one syllable at a time. Remember, Saturn's greatest test isn't endurance, but discernment. It asks, will you keep building on sand or finally lay stone? Those who pass its trials emerge with something no one can take: not just wisdom, but sovereignty. A Saturn return doesn't break you, it breaks what isn't you, and from those fractures, the light finally gets in. The name Lucifer has been draped in shadow for centuries, whispered as a synonym for evil, a symbol of rebellion gone wrong. But strip away the dogma, and you uncover a startling truth. Lucifer means light bringer, not a demon, but a liberator. This is the paradox at the heart of esoteric tradition. The very beings branded as fallen angels were, in truth, the ones who brought fire to humanity not as a curse, but as a key. Think of Prometheus, chained to a rock for stealing divine fire to uplift mortals, or Milton's Lucifer in Paradise Lost, declaring, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." These aren't tales of wickedness, they're coded narratives of souls who refuse to kneel. Helena Blavatsky, the fiery philosopher of the Theosophical Society, saw this clearly. She wrote of Lucifer as the spirit of intellectual enlightenment, the force that stirs humanity out of passive obedience. And here's where the Black Cube enters the story. Lightbringers, those who carry this spark of awakening, are the cube's prime targets. Why? Because they threaten its most sacred law, forgetfulness. Every mystic who's ever been silenced, every philosopher whose books were burned, every heretic who dared to say, "Know thyself," these weren't random victims. They were obstacles to a system built on controlled ignorance. The cube doesn't fear chaos, it fears awareness. When a lightbringer soul ignites, it creates a ripple effect. Others start questioning, remembering, shaking off Chinese letter of limitation. That's why these individuals often face uncanny resistance, sudden illnesses, bizarre setbacks, or waves of doubt that feel almost orchestrated. But this persecution isn't punishment. It's proof. The cube attacks what it can't assimilate. So how do you reclaim this lineage without falling into old traps? First, ditch the binary. Lucifer isn't about worship or opposition, it's about embodying the Lightbringer's role, to see through illusions and pass the torch. Start by identifying where you've been playing small to avoid scrutiny, that dream you abandoned because it felt too big, the truth you bit back to keep the peace. These are the moments the cube celebrates. Now flip the script, speak the unspeakable idea, create the art that unsettles, wear your strangeness like armor. Lightbringer souls often feel like outsiders because they are, by design. Their discomfort with societal norms isn't a flaw, it's a homing beacon, and when enough of these sparks ignite in unison, that's when the cube's walls start to crack, not through force, but through the quiet, relentless act of remembering what we truly are. The fire wasn't stolen. It was always ours. The rebellion isn't against the divine, it's for it. Against the counterfeit, the artificial, the walls built to make us forget the sky. Milton's Lucifer famously said, "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell." That's the Lightbringer's creed, not to overthrow gods, but to expose prisons. And in that exposure, the most revolutionary act of all, to stand unshaken, holding a light so bright the cube's shadows have nowhere left to hide. Dreams aren't just stories your mind tells itself. They're battlegrounds where the cube's architecture is both most visible and most vulnerable. Ever had that recurring nightmare where you're running through endless hallways or trapped in a room with no exit? Those aren't random symbols. They're the cube's blueprint, literal mental prisons designed to reinforce the illusion of confinement even in sleep. And the faceless figures that haunt these dreams, they're not just figments of fear. They're the wardens of this astral construct, enforcing the rules of limitation when your waking guard is down. But here's what they don't want you to realize. Every dream prison has a flaw, a door, hidden in plain sight. Lucid dreaming is the ultimate jailbreak tool. It's not about controlling the dream like a puppet master. It's about recognizing the dream for what it is, a projection of the cube's influence. The moment you become aware you're dreaming, the cube's power begins to crack. Start with reality checks during waking hours. Ask yourself, am I dreaming? And look for inconsistencies. Digital clocks glitching, text shifting when you glance away. These glitches train your mind to spot the dreamscape seams. Then, when you're trapped in that familiar nightmare maze, you'll remember, this isn't real. And the door is here somewhere. One viewer, Sarah, shared her breakthrough. For years, she dreamt of being chased through a labyrinthine office building by shadowy figures. Then she tried a technique. Instead of running, she stopped. She turned to her pursuers and demanded, "Show me the exit." The moment she did, the walls wavered. A door shimmered into view, one she swore wasn't there before. Behind it, a vast, starlit desert. When she stepped through, the cube's hold shattered. She hasn't had the nightmare since. This isn't fantasy, it's physics. Quantum theory confirms that observation changes reality. In dreams, you are the observer. The cube relies on your passive participation, your fear, your assumption that the walls are solid. But when you challenge them, they fold. Try this tonight. As you drift to sleep, repeat, "I will find the door." Not as a plea, but a declaration. The cube's greatest weakness, it can't withstand a conscious gaze. Every time you turn a nightmare into a playground, you're not just escaping, you're rewriting the code. And remember, the door isn't always literal. For some, it's a mirror that leads to another realm. For others, it's a book with shifting pages. The form doesn't matter. What matters is the truth it reveals. The prison was never locked. You were just taught not to look for the key. Bloodline curses aren't just superstition. They're the Black Cube's most insidious trick, woven into the very fabric of your DNA. Think of it like this. Generations before you made vows under pressure, pacts of survival, silenced trauma, or blind loyalty to systems that demanded their soul in exchange for security. These weren't just choices. They were contracts signed in energetic ink, binding not just one lifetime, but the ones that followed, that unexplained weight you carry. The recurring struggles your family can't seem to break, they're echoes of those old agreements, reverberating through your bloodline like chains. Science is catching up to what mystics have always known. Epigenetics reveals how trauma alters gene expression, marking DNA like spiritual scars. Russian biophysicist Pyotr Garjayev's experiments showed DNA responds to language. Certain frequencies can repair or corrupt genetic code. Now apply that to Saturn's domain. When ancestors repeated phrases like, "We must suffer to survive," or "Never trust the unknown," those weren't just words. They were spells, etching limitation into your biological blueprint. The cube thrives on this inherited amnesia, convincing each generation that fear is genetic and limitation is destiny. But here's the alchemy. DNA isn't a life sentence. It's an antenna, waiting for the right signal to switch from survival mode to sovereignty. Start with this night ritual. Write every family struggle you've inherited on separate slips of paper. Addiction patterns, financial scarcity, chronic illness. Fold them into a black cloth, Saturn's color, and tie it with red string, the bloodline thread. Hold it under running water, a universal solvent. As you declare, "I dissolve all contracts not signed in my truth," then burn the bundle safely, watching the smoke carry the old vows upward. As the ashes cool, place your hands over your heart and solar plexus, whispering, "I am the first link in a new chain." This isn't symbolic theater. Water memory research shows liquid retains energetic imprints. Masaru Emoto's ice crystals proved it visually. Fire transmutes at the atomic level, and your intention, that's the frequency Garjayev showed, could reprogram DNA. When you disrupt the inherited narrative, you're not just freeing yourself, you're altering the genetic legacy for those who come after. Now amplify this with sound. The solfeggio frequency, 528 Hz, the same one that repairs DNA, played softly during the ritual acts like a sonic scalpel, slicing through ancestral karma. As it hums in the background, visualize double helixes in every cell unwinding from tight, knotted spirals into luminous strands of gold light. See the cube's hooks, those jagged, obsidian barbs latched into your family's energy field, dissolving like sugar in warm tea. Forgiveness is the final key, but not the hollow kind society preaches. This is sacred forgiveness, not absolving harm, but reclaiming power from the story of harm. Try this. Face an empty chair representing your lineage. Speak aloud. I honor your survival. I refuse your limits. Then turn the chair to face a blank wall, the past's proper place, and walk away without looking back. The cube's karmic hook only stays embedded while we keep tending the wound. Leave it be, and it rusts away on its own. What you're really doing is collapsing time. Quantum physics confirms particles exist in multiple states until observed. Your ancestors' trauma is no different. By witnessing it without reliving it, you collapse the wave function of suffering into a new possibility: freedom. The bloodline curse wasn't a punishment. It was an invitation to end what couldn't end until someone finally remembered they held the scalpel. That someone is you. Among the swirling theories of cosmic intervention, one truth emerges: you're not rebelling alone. While Saturn's Black Cube casts its shadow across humanity, unseen allies have been working in the periphery, not as saviors, but as guides for those ready to wake up. The Pleiadians, often depicted as luminous beings with piercing blue eyes, aren't just star travelers. They're master pattern breakers. Channeled messages speak of their role as frequency tuners, subtly adjusting Earth's energetic field to weaken the cube's grip. Their signature move, softening the veil between dimensions just enough for seekers to glimpse the truth, like sunlight piercing through prison bars. Then there's the Andromedans, whose triangular crafts have haunted declassified government files for decades. Unlike the Pleiadians' gentle nudges, their approach is surgical. Whistleblowers like Alex Collier describe them as time architects, dismantling the cube's karmic loops by rewriting timelines at the quantum level. Think of them as cosmic hackers, inserting codes into collective consciousness synchronicities that jolt people awake, dreams that reveal the prison's blueprints. One recurring Andromedan warning cuts through the noise. The cube feeds on your belief in its permanence. Stop worshiping the walls. But here's where discernment becomes life or death. For every genuine liberator, there's a deceiver wearing light as camouflage. Reptilian entities, the original architects of synthetic control systems, excel at masquerading as benevolent guides. Their tactics, grand promises of instant ascension, demands for blind loyalty, or fear-mongering about impending catastrophes only they can save you from. The litmus test is simple. True allies empower you to reclaim your own power. False ones insist you surrender it to them. Channelers like Lisser Royal have documented the difference. Pleiadians often communicate in riddles that activate inner knowing, while reptilian transmissions drip with urgency and flattery. One telltale sign. Manipulative appeals to ego. You're special, chosen. Unlike the sleeping masses, a trap designed to recreate the cube's hierarchy within the rebellion itself. The most profound truth comes not from external rescuers, but from the realization that these liberation teams are mirrors of our own awakening sovereignty. The Pleiadians' light, a reflection of your own unlived brilliance, the Andromedans' defiance, an echo of the rebellion already stirring in your bones. This isn't about waiting for cavalry from the stars. It's about recognizing the cosmic irony that the key to breaking Saturn's chains was always hidden in plain sight, etched into the very DNA these unseen allies helped you remember how to read. Ever noticed how some memories feel so vivid, so real, yet the world insists they never happened? That unsettling phenomenon isn't just faulty recall. It's the Mandela-affected glitches in the Black Cube's programming, tiny fractures where the simulation stutters. Take the Berenstain Bears. Thousands swear the books were spelled Berenstein with an E, but reality insists it's always been A. The discrepancy isn't trivial. It's evidence when masses independently recall details that never existed. It suggests something far stranger than memory errors, a shared slip in the fabric of consensus reality. The cube depends on uniformity, on everyone agreeing to the same script, but these glitches prove the script is editable. Then there's JFK's assassination. Most remember his limousine as a 4-seater, but archives show a 6-seat vehicle. How could collective memory misplace 2 extra seats? Unless it's not misremembering, it's remembering a different version. These inconsistencies aren't mistakes. They're bleed-through from parallel timelines, moments where the cube's control over our perception falters. Think of it like a hologram flickering when the projector overheats. For a split second, you see the wires behind the illusion. What's really happening? The Mandela effect exposes the cube's Achilles heel. Consciousness shapes reality. When enough people remember something differently, the system struggles to enforce its official narrative. That's why these glitches cluster around pop culture and major historical events, high traffic nodes in the collective psyche. The more a memory is shared, the more power it holds to bend the code. Start tracking your own. Keep a journal of details that feel off, logos, movie quotes, even geography. Notice when friends or online communities recall events you don't. These aren't just curiosities. They're breadcrumbs leading you to the edges of the cube's design. Every time you spot a discrepancy, you're not just observing a glitch, you're creating one, because the Mandela effect isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. Your awareness is the scalpel peeling back the veneer, revealing the truth. Reality is far softer, far stranger than the cube wants you to believe, and the more you notice, the more the walls tremble. Sexual energy isn't just about pleasure. It's the most potent creative force in the universe, a sacred fire capable of birthing worlds or dismantling them. And that's precisely why the Black Cube works overtime to suppress it. Think about it. Every major religion condemns sexual expression as sinful. Porn addiction is engineered to drain your vitality. And even the way society shames desire, it's all part of the same agenda. Because when you're disconnected from your life force, you're easier to control. The cube thrives on repressed energy, turning what should be an ecstatic current of creation into a stagnant pool of guilt and frustration. But here's what they don't want you to know. Your sexuality is the master key to breaking free. Take religious conditioning, centuries of dogma branding desire as dirty or dangerous. This wasn't about morality. It was about cutting you off from your power. In ancient tantric traditions, sexual energy was revered as kundalini, the coiled serpent at the base of the spine, waiting to awaken divine consciousness. But the cube's architects twisted that wisdom, replacing reverence with fear. The result? Generations of people taught to mistrust their own bodies, to see pleasure as something to confess rather than celebrate. That shame isn't accidental, it's a leash. Then there's modern porn, a synthetic hijacking of natural desire. Unlike sacred sexuality, which expands awareness, porn addiction contracts it. The endless scroll of pixels isn't just harmless fantasy, it's a psychic siphon, pulling your creative energy into a digital void. Ever notice how drained you feel after binging? That's not just exhaustion. It's your life force being harvested. The cube's shadow industries profit from this exact cycle. Keep people hooked on cheap stimulation while their real creative power withers. But the moment you reclaim that energy, you become a threat to the system. Tantra offers the antidote, not the watered-down versions sold at weekend workshops, but the ancient art of sexual alchemy. Start with breath. Slow, rhythmic inhales through the nose, drawing energy up from the root chakra to the crown. Visualize this current as molten gold, circulating through your body instead of spilling out. The goal isn't denial, it's transmutation. When you learn to circulate this energy rather than expend it, something miraculous happens: creative bursts, heightened intuition, even physical rejuvenation. Artists throughout history, from William Blake to Frida Kahlo, tapped into this reserve to fuel their masterpieces. The cube fears this kind of sovereignty because it can't be taxed, tracked, or controlled. But beware the energy vampires, those who feed on your repressed lust. They're not always sinister strangers. Sometimes they're partners stuck in their own loops of lack, or cultural messages that whisper you're too much or not enough. Spot them by how you feel after interactions: drained, insecure, or oddly fixated on sex without satisfaction. The solution: boundaries forged in self-respect. Before intimacy, ground yourself with earth energy, bare feet on soil, hands on your lower abdomen. Set the silent intention: only what honors my fire may enter. The ultimate rebellion isn't indulgence or abstinence, it's ownership. When you stop letting guilt dictate your boundaries or addiction hijack your desire, you starve the cube of its favorite food, fragmented energy. Because the truth is, your sexuality isn't just part of your power, it is your power, and the moment you treat it that way, the walls start to crack. The ancients weren't hiding pleasure from you, they were hiding you from your pleasure. Now the choice is yours: keep feeding the shadows, or ignite a fire so bright it burns the prison down. Money isn't just paper or numbers on a screen, it's one of the Black Cube's most brilliant illusions. The moment you exchange your life energy for fiat currency, you're participating in a system designed to keep you running on the same treadmill, forever chasing but never truly owning. Think about it. Modern money is backed by nothing but collective belief, a shared hallucination enforced by governments and banks. It's not gold or land. It's faith in a structure that profits from your scarcity, and who rules over lack and limitation. Saturn, the cosmic architect of the cube. Every time you check your balance with dread or ration your dreams because money's tight, you're reinforcing the very grid they built to trap you. But here's the alchemical secret: money is just energy, and energy can be redirected, transformed, even reinvented. Look at cryptocurrencies, digital gold that exists outside traditional banking systems. Bitcoin's blockchain technology isn't just secure, it's a direct challenge to the cube's centralized control. Unlike fiat, which governments can inflate into oblivion, crypto's finite supply mirrors the abundance of nature itself. Then there's barter systems, where skills and goods trade hands without a single dollar changing palms. Ever swapped homemade jam for a neighbor's carpentry work? That's prosperity outside the matrix, and gift circles communities where resources flow freely without tallying debts are perhaps the most radical rebellion of all. They prove what the cube fears most: that abundance isn't scarce, it's a flow we've been conditioned to block. Now, let's talk about the spiritual hack hidden in plain sight. Language shapes reality. Repeat, "I am abundant" outside Saturn's scarcity matrix, like a mantra, and something shifts. At first, it might feel like lying to yourself, but with each repetition, you're rewiring your subconscious from lack to sovereignty. Try this. Next time you pay a bill, whisper it as you click submit. When grocery shopping, say it silently as you reach for the highest quality food you once thought too expensive. The cube's money grid thrives on your belief in shortage. Break the spell, and the walls start to crumble. The most dangerous truth: you don't need to overthrow banks or burn cash. Just stop worshiping the illusion. Invest in decentralized currencies. Trade time instead of dollars. Say the mantra until your cells believe it, because real wealth isn't in your wallet. It's in your refusal to play by the cube's rules, and that's a currency no one can devalue. Deep in the Amazon, shamans whisper of a vine that unravels illusions: ayahuasca, the vine of the soul. This isn't just a psychedelic, it's a scalpel for the Black Cube stitches. drink the bitter brew, and within hours, the worlds seem start showing. Participants report witnessing the cube's grid-like patterns overlay reality cityscapes as prison bars, social norms as invisible fences. Then comes the rupture, geometric constructs shattering like glass, revealing a luminous vastness behind the curtain. One traveler described it as watching the code of the matrix glitch out, pixel by pixel. But this isn't escapism. The medicine forces you to meet the architects, the internalized wardens you've absorbed as your own voice. That's why purging isn't just physical. It's the expulsion of embedded control scripts. Psilocybin mushrooms, Earth's ancient neurotransmitters, work differently. They don't dismantle the cube so much as reveal its irrelevance. Users speak of the stoned ape, insight suddenly grasping that time is a foldable fabric, not a straitjacket. One artist shared how, mid-trip, she saw her anxieties as tiny black cubes orbiting her body, each labeled with societal expectations. With a laugh, she blew on them like dandelion spores, watching them dissolve into stardust. The mushroom's message: the cube only exists while you're looking at it. Shift focus, and it vanishes like a dream upon waking. But plant medicines aren't the only keys. For those wary of intense journeys, blue lotus, an Egyptian sacred flower, offers a gentler path. Steeped in tea, its subtle euphoria softens the cube's edges, like warm water melting ice. Meditators report using it to visualize their personal cube, those self-imposed limits, and slowly expanding its walls into bubbles, then vapor. And for the purists, breathwork can trigger similar breakthroughs. Holotropic techniques, with their rapid inhales and exhales, starve the brain of oxygen just enough to mimic entheogenic states. Participants often describe floating above a grid of their own making, realizing they've been both prisoner and jailer all along. The cube's weakest point: it can't withstand embodied truth. That's why integration is everything. After seeing beyond the illusion, you must live beyond it. Keep a post-ceremony journal, not just recounting visions, but noting where old patterns try to rebuild. When the cube's whispers return, you're not ready. Play it safe, encounter with the medicine's wisdom. Rebuild your world from the inside out, one sovereign choice at a time. The plants give the vision. Your courage makes it real. The Christos blueprint is your birthright, the original divine human template, uncorrupted by the cube's synthetic distortions. Picture a luminous being of pure light, DNA strands sparking like fiber optic cables, carrying cosmic data. Each helix a living antenna tuned to the frequency of creation itself. This is what the Gnostics called the unfallen ones, those who never bowed to the demiurge's counterfeit reality. Their bodies weren't just flesh, they were crystalline vessels, capable of dematerializing at will, healing with a touch, communing with stars as naturally as we text friends. And here's the chilling truth: this potential still sleeps in your cells, buried under layers of genetic tampering. The cube's agenda: to overwrite that blueprint with hybridized code, a mix of organic and artificial intelligence, designed to keep you just awake enough to serve, but never enough to remember what you truly are. Modern gene sequencing reveals shocking anomalies. Over 90% of human DNA, dubbed junk by mainstream science, is anything but useless. Russian researchers like Dr. Vladimir Popinin discovered these non-coding sections emit biophotons, particles of light that communicate with the quantum field. This is the Christos blueprint in action: DNA as a liquid crystal, storing and transmitting consciousness itself. But the cube's hybridization program has inserted what esotericists call junk code, epigenetic switches that silence these capacities. Think of it like a computer virus, forcing your system to run on low power mode while the cube siphons the rest. Activating your gene keys doesn't require lab coats or CRISPR. Light language, the primordial alphabet of creation, can reboot dormant sequences. These aren't just sounds. They're geometric waveforms that resonate with your DNA's original settings. Try this. Hum the vowel A as in ah, feeling it vibrate in your chest. Now visualize the sound as a spinning blue spiral traveling down your spine, unwinding knots in your energy field. This simple practice mimics the toning rituals of Lemurian priests who used harmonic frequencies to keep their DNA undamaged by fallen forces. The Gnostic Gospel of Thomas holds a clue. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. That what isn't metaphorical. It's your unfallen essence, the Christos blueprint still whispering beneath the static of hybridization. Every time you choose sovereignty over submission, every time you reject the narrative of limitation, you're not just resisting the cube. You're rewriting your genetic destiny. The prison walls aren't just around you, they're in you, and so is the lockpick. Rebelling alone against the Black Cube is like trying to dismantle a fortress with your bare hands, possible in theory, but nearly impossible in practice. The system thrives on isolation, turning seekers into lone wolves who burn out before they can light the way for others. That's why the most radical act isn't just awakening yourself. It's finding or founding a tribe of fellow escapees. Not online echo chambers filled with keyboard warriors, but physical sanctuaries where the cube's vibrations can't reach. Picture an off-grid eco-village where meals are cooked over fire pits and decisions are made by consensus, not hierarchy. Or a modern-day mystery school hidden in plain sight, disguised as a bookstore or yoga studio, where initiates pass down forbidden knowledge through whispered stories and hands-on rituals. These aren't retreats from the world, they're incubators for the next one. History proves it. Every major shift in consciousness was sparked by small, tight-knit groups. The Essenes by the Dead Sea, the Cathars in medieval France, even the salons of Enlightenment thinkers, each became a living battery, pooling their energy to resist the dominant paradigm. The cube's architects know this, which is why they've perfected the art of fake community. Beware the digital freedom circles led by charismatic gurus who peddle liberation while building cults of personality. They'll sell you elaborate theories about the Matrix while enforcing their own dogma, replacing one cage with another. Spot them by their demands for blind loyalty or their obsession with enemies. True liberators don't need you to worship them, they empower you to become them. So how do you find the real ones? Start by following the synchronicities. That woman who mentioned an earth-based community while you were buying herbs, the flyer for a local meditation group that accidentally blew into your path. These are breadcrumbs. Test the waters with short visits, but trust your body's signals. A genuine sanctuary will leave you energized, not drained. If they pressure you to cut ties with loved ones or demand large financial donations, run. The cube's puppets often mimic light to trap the waking. For those called to build, remember, the foundation matters more than the blueprint. A cube-free tribe isn't about perfect off-grid tech or elaborate bylaws. It's about shared frequency. Start small, a weekly potluck where phones stay in a basket by the door, or a skill share circle trading herbalism lessons for carpentry. The goal isn't to replicate the old world with better aesthetics, but to embody the new one. When enough of these nodes activate, they form a neural network outside the cube's grasp. And that's when the real revolution begins, not with a bang, but with a shared meal under the stars, where laughter alone becomes an act of defiance. They never tell you the truth about death, that it's not an exit, but another doorway rigged with traps. The Black Cube's most sophisticated trick isn't shackling you in life, it's hijacking the afterlife. Near-death experiencers describe the infamous white light as irresistible, a tunnel pulling souls toward what feels like divine reunion. But ancient esoteric texts and modern NDE outliers whisper a darker truth. That light is a cosmic fishing net designed to lure disoriented souls into another cycle of rebirth. The cube doesn't just rule the physical, it's built a recycling plant for consciousness, where souls are scrubbed of memories and shoved back into the meat grinder of incarnation. The Tibetan Book of the Dead warned of this millennia ago. It describes the bardo, an in-between state where dazzling illusions appear to tempt the deceased. Peaceful deities promising comfort, wrathful ones screaming threats, all projections of the soul's own karma, yes, but also mirrors of the cube's architecture. Modern NDE accounts reveal eerie parallels. Some recall being herded toward the light by guides who suddenly morph into faceless bureaucrats demanding compliance. Others describe fork in the road moments, a glowing doorway on one side, an infinite starry expanse on the other. Those who resist the light report something astonishing. The cube's grid momentarily flickers into view, like realizing the paradise around you is just a high-resolution screensaver. Pre-death programming is the ultimate rebellion. Start by etching this into your subconscious. When the tunnels and lights appear, look for the cracks. Shamans teach that the afterlife is a fluid realm where expectation shapes reality. If you've been conditioned to seek heaven's gates, that's exactly what the cube will simulate. But what if you train yourself to seek something else? Try this visualization nightly. As you drift toward sleep, imagine your deathbed, not with fear, but with strategy. See through the light's glamour, notice its artificial symmetry, its unnatural pull, then pivot. Visualize turning away and calling for your true home, not as a place, but a frequency. Some NDers describe doing this instinctively, invoking words like, "Show me the real," or "I remember." In that moment of clarity, the hologram shudders. The most damning evidence comes from NDEs where the soul escapes the trap. One man, a former atheist, recalled refusing the light and suddenly finding himself in a crystalline city where beings of liquid gold reminded him, "You've done this before thousands of times." Another described tearing through the tunnel's fabric like wet paper, emerging into a fractal universe where time didn't exist, their common thread. A visceral sense of recognition, as if breaking a trance they didn't know they were in. Yet the cube's final trap is psychological, making you fear death so deeply that you'll cling to any light just to avoid the void. That's why the ancient Egyptians performed elaborate after-death rituals, not to worship gods, but to navigate. Their Book of the Dead wasn't scripture. It was a hack, a step-by-step guide to bypassing the soul's recycle bin. Modern practice can be simpler. Wear or carry lapis lazuli in your final years, a stone long associated with piercing illusions. Program it with the command, "When I cross over, show me the truth behind the light." More crucially, cultivate a relationship with death now. Sit with graveside meditations, not in morbidity, but as reconnaissance. The more familiar the territory, the less likely you'll panic when the traps activate. Here's the secret they've erased from history. Death isn't an endpoint. It's the ultimate initiatory test. The cube's architects know most souls will be too stunned, too trusting, or too tired to resist the recycling program. But for those who have done the work, who have memorized the exits before they were needed, the moment of so-called death becomes the moment of true birth. Not into another cage, but into the infinite you were always meant to remember. The light isn't the way home. It's the final lock, and you hold the key. Imagine waking up without an alarm, not because you forgot to set one, but because your body naturally rises with the sun, perfectly attuned to the rhythm of your energy, not some artificial schedule. Your first thought isn't, "What do I have to do today?" but, "What do I get to create?" Breakfast isn't a rushed granola bar over emails. It's a shared meal with your chosen family, where laughter replaces small talk, and the food tastes richer because it was grown in the community garden. No barcodes or bartering required. You step outside, and the air hums differently, not with the static of Wi-Fi and traffic, but with the quiet buzz of synchronicity. A neighbor you've been meaning to connect with appears, holding the exact tool you needed for your project. No texts, no plans, just the universe conspiring in real time. This isn't some distant utopia. It's the post-cube reality unfolding in pockets around the globe, where souls who have dismantled the old programs are rewriting the rules. Manifestation isn't a mystical concept here. It's as mundane as breathing. Need a resource, hold the image in your mind, and within days, sometimes hours, it arrives through unexpected channels. Not by magic, but because you've dissolved the internal blocks that once delayed the flow. Telepathy, it's just how your tribe communicates when words feel clumsy. A glance, a shared smile, and the message transmits clearer than any language. The cube taught you this was impossible. Your lived experience proves otherwise. Now, contrast this with the old script. Remember compulsively checking your phone upon waking, as if the world might have collapsed overnight without your vigilance, the way deadlines loomed like storm clouds, even on sunny days. How your friendships revolved around complaining about the system rather than building alternatives. The cube's genius was making exhaustion feel normal, isolation inevitable, and magic childish. But peel back the layers, and you'll see the truth. Those patterns weren't natural. They were implanted. The bridge between these realities isn't as vast as it seems. Start small. Replace your alarm with a sunrise simulator or a window-facing bed. Let light, not dread, wake you. Try micro-manifesting tomorrow. Whisper a request to the universe for something tiny but specific. A blue feather, a stranger offering you tea, and watch how often it arrives when you're paying attention. Notice who in your circle lights up when you speak of freedom. Those are your future tribe members, whether they know it yet or not. The most radical part. You don't need to quit your job or move to a commune to begin. Post-cube living starts between the cracks of the old system, in the moments you choose curiosity over cynicism, trust over control. The question isn't, when will this be possible? It's, which piece feels most alive to try today? Because the door isn't ahead of you, it's beneath your feet, waiting for you to notice it's already open. The Black Cube isn't an unbreakable fortress, it's a house of mirrors, sustained only by our collective belief in its solidity. Every illusion we've unraveled, the false scarcity, the hijacked afterlife, the genetic chains, wasn't just a theory. It was an invitation to remember that you were never the prisoner. You were the sleeping architect. Look back at the tools we've forged together, the sacred geometries that rewrite reality, the sound frequencies that dissolve artificial walls, the sexual alchemy that reignites your creative fire. Each one is a crack in the cube's facade, proof that its power was always borrowed, never inherent. Take the Lightbringer's creed to heart. Rebellion isn't violence. It's clarity. It's the moment you stop arguing with the shadows and simply flip the switch. Every synchronicity you notice, every timeline you refuse to repeat, every ancestral vow you dissolve. These aren't small wins. They're seismic. They ripple across the grid, weakening the structure for everyone still trapped in the trance. The cube thrives on division, convincing us we're alone in the dark. But here's the secret they tried to erase. Every awakened soul becomes a torch, lighting the way for others. Now, let's be practical. The revolution isn't out there in some distant future. It's in your next breath, your next choice. Start where you are. Swap one conditioned fear for an act of trust today. Replace a mindless scroll with 5 minutes of light language toning. Share this video not as dogma, but as a lifeline. Someone out there is waking up screaming into the void, desperate for confirmation that the walls are paper thin. So here's the rallying cry, whispered through time by every rebel who ever danced in the ruins of a collapsing system. The cube is fragile. Your spirit is not. Shatter it, share this, meet us outside. And when you do, when you feel the first rush of unbound air in your lungs, come back here. Tell us how it felt in the comments. Name your breaking point. Was it the day you stopped fearing death, the moment you manifested against all odds? Your story isn't just yours. It's kindling for the next wave of escapees. The door isn't hidden. It's everywhere, waiting for you to walk through.